Dave here from MiniWargaming.com. Welcome Wargamers to the Shrine of Chaos. Today we have a very special guest, Vince Venturella. You may have seen him on the interwebs and YouTube and Instagram and Twitter and online for a number of years. He's been in the community for a long time and he has his fingers in many different things, as you will see in the course of this discussion and interview. And the forefront of that is the most recent project that he's been working on, which is very exciting. I'm personally excited about this because it involves, well, not Chaos Space Marines directly, but it's certainly related to it, in my mind anyway. So Vince, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, sir. Very happy to be here. Yeah, really excited to come on and talk about the new game and anything else you want to.
Awesome.
And all things Chaos.
All things, yes, of course. All things Chaos. So first and foremost, if you guys want to check out his channels, I've included the links to his YouTube channel, his Instagram, his Twitter, and also the very first link there is a link to Reign in Hell, which is your new rule set that you've made for your miniatures game, and I'll let you talk more about that. So, what is that? How did it start? And details, please.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So this is Reign in Hell. It is a 64-page book. It is a skirmish, fast-paced, brutal miniatures agnostic skirmish war game. Meaning you can use whatever miniatures you have or want to print. Maybe there's some you've seen for a while, you wanted to buy, but you had no excuse to only get 3 or 4 of them just to paint them. No issue. You can do that. You can use anything like that from your existing collection. Like you mentioned that, and for some reason, there's some kind of adjacency to Chaos Space Marines here in your mind. That might be because a lot of people I've seen use Chaos miniatures and even Chaos Space Marines and Chaos Marines in general, or Chaos Warriors or anything like that, if you're more of an Age of Sigmar guy, to represent some of their demons. You know, for example, there's like an armored demon in the game. Hey, sounds pretty perfect to me, right? But the whole idea of the game is pretty straightforward. We wanted to make something that was simple, fun, easy to get into. It really is focused on fast-paced, sort of very brutal combat, and most importantly, campaign play. So, yes, there's a whole really narrative focus to having a long campaign with you and your friends, getting together, growing up your cabals, watching them sort of advance in the power structures of hell, and then eventually one wins.
Now, you said we. Who's involved?
Yeah, so this was mainly myself and Uncle Adam from Tabletop Minions.
Nice.
So the two of us got together and made this game. This is his brainchild. I won't take any credit for that. He came up with this really great idea about probably 2 years ago now. He kind of just mentioned this offhand when he and I and Sam Lenz were all hanging out and just doing some painting and streaming. And he said, hey, I've got this kind of idea. It's kind of this demon skirmish thing. I don't really know what it is. And he kind of talked through some ideas. I said, that sounds cool. But we didn't talk about it again for 6 months. And then 6 months later, right before the pandemic started, he said, yeah, I've really been thinking about that a lot. I've got some ideas. You interested in working on it with me? I said, yeah, I'd love to. Let's see what we can do. Then the pandemic hit. And it took a couple months for it to really sink in that we weren't going anywhere for a little while. And so at that point, then we, got together and said, okay, let's really do this. And so then over the next 6 to 8 months, we sat down, wrote the game, tested the game, did all the necessary pre-production stuff, and brought it out here at the end of May. It was probably maybe 9 months total work, I guess.
Total work. Okay. It's going back and forth and bouncing ideas and solidifying rule set and stuff. So, okay. With your... Now, I don't know your background in terms of like game design, but do you have game design background?
Yes. So I've been designing games or writing for games for a long time. So this is the 7th game I've published, though the rest were all role-playing games. So my background was mainly in role-playing game design, hence why of things that I write tend to have RPG elements in them, right? So when we think of like RPG elements in a war game, things like a campaign system, having your demons level up or stuff like that, right? We've all played video games with RPG elements in them, right?
Right.
This was the last game I made right here. This is the one that sits over my shoulder. This is called the Narrative Game System, or NGS. The title is out of frame, but trust me, it's up there. And so I also have written for other game companies for a long time. I started writing stuff for D&D back in like the early 2000s. I was a consultant on the newest edition of D&D, and helped them as much as I could with that. And that came out wonderfully. And then, yeah, and so on and so forth. Like I've done lots of just fan rule stuff in addition, just for fun. I like writing rules.
Yeah.
So it's something I really enjoy. And I think by this point, after doing it for almost 20 years, hopefully I am at least moderately skilled at it.
Very modest. I mean, this is your 7th game. That's pretty cool. So that actually makes me automatically think that your 8th game is probably a game that Corn's going to want. And I'm excited for that because, I mean, you're going to make another game.
We are. Adam and I are already talking about what the next one will be. We've got some more stuff we want to do with Rain in Hell, but we're in the very, 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 very early stages of just plotting down some ideas. And I know what the 8th game will be, but I'm not going to say anything yet.
Okay, so going back to Rain in Hell for a second there, how long is the gameplay?
So generally to play a game, you're talking about 30 to 45 minutes. It's pretty fast.
Okay, and how many models on each side?
If you're just starting your cabal, you generally need 7 or 8. It's usually in that range. You build up your warband, so there's a couple different options. But usually 7 or 8, max of 10. Literally never more than 10 figures.
Okay.
For your particular cabal.
Right. And now, is there a certain recommended board size?
Great question. So we use a standard 22 by 30 board, which might sound somewhat familiar to you. Mm-hmm. It's the base size for Kill Team or Warcry, or the 1/4 of a standard 40K or AOS board now.
Yep.
That's our recommended size. We also do give you some options for if you want to, like, I don't have one of those, or I don't want to mark out that space. You could use a traditional 3x3 or something like that as well, with adjustments to sort of the deployment zones and things like that. So, but the standard size is 22 by 30.
Okay. And it's 2-player. Is it more than 2-player? Can it be more than 2-player?
Great question. Yes, at the moment it does require at least 2 players, so it's a competitive game. That is to say, you gotta have at least one friend for now. Now I have been spending the time actually since we launched. I'm working on the solo/co-op expansion, which we're going to put out for free. That'll come out probably next month. And that will allow people to play 1-player games. It'll give you a campaign you can go through on your own. Mm-hmm. But right now it's 2 to 4. So out of the 10 scenarios we have, 7 of them can be played up to 4 players.
Okay, very cool. Now you mentioned that it is what did you say? You said miniature game agnostic, meaning no miniatures that are part of it, but you can use any miniatures.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you have plans to make them?
Our words are always fast, brutal, miniatures agnostic, campaign play. There's your 4 keywords right there. Okay. So like in our original design document, we literally wrote down those 4 words.
Yeah.
Because we were like, we wanted, and I don't mean that like in a markety doublespeak way. I mean that in just like, those were our guiding principles, right? When we sat down before we wrote a word of this game, we said we want it to be fast. We want it to be brutal. Yeah. We want it to have a good, solid campaign in it. Because both Adam and I really love campaign skirmish games like Mordheim or stuff like that, if you've played those kinds of games, right? And so that was all part of the design implement. Now, I'm sorry you asked a question, and I totally sidetracked. What was your question?
The question was, do you plan on making miniatures?
Got it. No, we're not miniatures makers, honestly, and there's so many great people out there making miniatures right now.
Right.
There's so many incredible people doing 3D printing right now.
Right.
And a bunch of them, like I think Titan Forge just did a Demon Month. Archvillain had these are all people who are doing 3D print STL files.
Right.
Archvillain had a Demon Month some months ago. We're looking at whether or not we can do sort of maybe have like a coupon thing we can give for people out there to something like My Mini Factory or whatever. Like, we'll see what we can do. I certainly would love to facilitate something like that. But that's still in discussion.
Now, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, but the point is we don't actually want to make a range of miniatures for it. Okay. Because in the end, I want people to be able to express their creativity however they want.
Right.
And not feel like, oh, if I use something that isn't the default, I'm doing it wrong.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Like, there's sort of that feeling, right, that you have that if there is a default, there's going to be some segment of people who are like, oh, so those are the things I'm supposed to buy.
So it's interesting how you should say that, because I understand the concept of that for sure. But the Mark of Dave is literally the opposite of WYSIWYG. So I completely get using whatever you want, whenever you want.
Right.
And I think that's totally cool. That's awesome.
And we tried to structure the game so that you really could have your vision of these things. What I mean by that is, if you think about the demons, like I mentioned one already, the armored demon. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, what does that mean, right? Like it could be some 3D print demon that's, big, scary guy with just some armor plates on his shoulders or something like that. It could be a Chaos Space Marine. That would be fine, right? Mm-hmm. Like those are both perfectly fine visualizations of that concept, mm-hmm. right? So the demons we have for you to play in the game, they're more conceptual, because in the end there could be a million billion permutations of what that thing looks like in hell, right?
Right. Okay, so here's a question. How many different I'll call them factions for now. How many different demon factions are there?
Fantastic question. All right, so they are philosophies. And I'll lay down something real quick here, because it's important to, I think, set the stage here. This isn't like the hell that we're setting this in. This is not a Judeo-Christian hell or something like that, right? There's no Lucifer or something like that in charge. This is another dimension that is sort of the basis for a lot of thoughts of what we have as hell and stuff like that. So It is simply a pretty awful place full of demons that are themselves made of sort of soul energy and stuff like that, and they self-actualize through what they believe about themselves, and that's really important. Belief matters in hell, mm-hmm. since it's not a physical world with traditional physical rules like our mortal place. Mm. Belief has power. So the more belief, the more faith you have in something, the more power it tends to manifest in changing hell itself. Not only you personally as a demon, but the world around you. Yeah. And so they're philosophies. So that's like each of the 6 philosophies, and there are 6 in the book, relate to how your leader thinks hell should be run. Okay? The important part to understand here is that hell has always been terrible, but it used to be a pretty organized place. So in the story before our game is set, hell was pretty organized. There was kind of a directorate. They were very bureaucratic. They kind of kept everything running. Mm-hmm. And they would get souls from humans that they could trick into going through the portal or sign contracts with or stuff like that. They wanted those delicious human souls. So they would just have to trick humans into coming to hell or sign contracts or so on. And the humans eventually get wise to this and send through a bunch of heroes that come in, kill the directorate, and close the only portal that connects hell and earth mm-hmm. behind them.
Okay.
Hell collapses. This is actually a sneaky post-apocalyptic game, because it's the post-apocalypse in hell. Like their society has collapsed.
Interesting.
All order is gone.
Okay.
Right? It is now just chaos.
Chaos, okay.
Right. And so in this chaos, there are leaders that rise up that think, okay, listen, all of you are wrong. I know the way hell should be run. And I'm going to, through force of personality or force alone, mm-hmm. I will bring my belief to reality. Okay. Right? So that's basically the concept.
That's the concept. Okay. And is it 100% demons?
It is 100% demons. Everything in there it is all demon on demon combat. Yes.
Okay. And as you said before, a demon constitutes soul energy, basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
They're a sort of mishmash of different souls shoved up and sliced up and formed into something that looks like a being, right? That takes some kind of physical manifestation. And that comes out through the game mechanics, and we can get into it as we go. But like the mechanics represent that. They aren't living beings. That is to say, like they don't, they don't poop, I guess, like that's, I guess
that's my mind when I'm like,
thing.
He's gonna say.
They're not like that, right? They are things. You can hit them with a weapon and a sword and injure them and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But they don't process energy in the same way we do or something like that.
So, can they die?
No. That is an important part. Barring something really, really, like, I shouldn't say that. No, barring special circumstances. Of course, in the story, the Directorate of Hell were all killed permanently, right? So there are sort of ways we talk about the story kind of outside the game where, in very special circumstances and very potent sort of sorceries or things like that, demons could be permanently eradicated, right?
Right.
Now they can wear away to become little more than just kind of geists, because you have so much soul energy in you. You lose too much of that, you eventually lose the ability to sort of constitute yourself in any meaningful way and become little more than like a withered husk, a little soul that has to attach onto other things. That's how we get ghosts or that kind of concept in hell. Like some of the terrain can be haunted. That's haunted by demons that just got killed so many times, they lost so much soul energy that they just have to like physically hold on to something to even stay around. Otherwise, they just kind of dissipate.
Okay. Interesting. So
I love this metaphysics of how do the demons work, by the way. It's great.
That sounds really cool. So that actually spawns an idea in my brain about something. Maybe it gave me this visual. I don't know if it's anything related or anything close to what you have established in your lore and in your universe, but this is what I pictured. Mm-hmm. I pictured souls. Okay, we are souls. We exist here on this planet, but how are souls created, right? And I thought, what if souls are actually planets and suns? And so there's billions and trillions, it's infinite, right? So whenever a planet dies or a sun dies, that soul energy is floating in space, if you will. And when a being is born on this planet, that inhabits the
sort of physical fleshy thing.
Physical flesh, right? And so when they die, their soul energy continues. Mm-hmm. And then, because you can never really destroy a soul.
Correct.
You could trap it. You could do other things with it. But how cool would that be if there was a universe where that's where kind of like the souls came from? And like if a person was a sun before, they have a bigger soul.
First of all, I love this idea. This is a super cool idea. You're building a great expansion to this game. Let me just say that. No, we don't really address where it comes from, other than because the demons are too far down the supply chain.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So like they're getting the chicken from I can't think of any. They're going to Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? Uh-huh. They don't have access to the raw chicken. They have to go somewhere to the restaurant to get it, right?
Okay.
So that's why they spent their time like luring humans into hell. Part of the trick with like using the portal or tricking humans into hell was that you can't walk across the portal if you don't wish to walk across the portal.
Okay.
So they had to they couldn't just grab humans and abscond with them. That doesn't work. They would just bounce off of it, right? That was part of the deal. They had to sort of willingly lure them through guile or stuff like that. The demons themselves, in the way it works in the game, the way this manifests mechanically is when you're fighting, you're doing your normal combat. We can talk about the mechanics as we go on, but this is pretty integral to what we're talking about here. Whenever one of your guys slays a demon, friend or foe, which by the way, killing your own demons oftentimes will have benefits to the game, because just like they're demons, man.
Awesome. I love it.
And so when you kill a demon and you're relatively close to them in the game, that demon is then able to like go whoop, and grab a little bit of soul energy from that demon as it dissipates. Now you don't get the whole thing. That demon's still going to reconstitute after the game. There's no you're on the campaign chart. You have to roll for the soul loss table, which can result in certain bonuses or penalties to your being.
Okay.
But how that manifests in the game is when you grab that soul, you then get a soul dice. And that's a little D6. You take that D6, you roll it immediately. Whatever face it comes up on, you set that on your play sheet. You can now replace a later roll in the game with that soul dice. So you can burn off that energy to then sort of do a thing later. Okay, like somebody rolls an attack against you, they get a really good roll. Will use one of your soul dice. You can replace one of their die with a failure, something like that, or replace one of your failures with a success.
Right.
So you can sort of use that. That souls are their currency, their sorcery, their life, their everything. Right. It is their very existence.
So for those, just really quick, for those who are just joining us or who wish to know, Vince and I are talking about Reign in Hell, which is a rule set created by Vince and Uncle Adam from Tabletop Minions. And it is a miniatures agnostic game where miniatures aren't part of the game. You can use any miniatures you wish from any miniatures line, any demon miniature thing that you want to represent as a demon. And it is available. You can click on that first link I've provided in this post, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. And that'll bring you to give you more information about the game, and also to the Wargame Vault, where you can download the rules for the game.
Yep.
All right. So back to what you're saying.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah. Fast, brutal, campaign-focused, miniatures agnostic skirmish wargame. There you go. I'll do my standard pitch. Yeah, so that's how that manifests, and which is a mechanic that, like, if you play 40K or something, you're probably kind of familiar with, and there's kind of like a miracle die. It's very similar to that in, like, the Sisters of Battle, I think. Or like the Zinch dice in Age of Sigmar, where you roll a bunch of dice and then you can use them before the game. Very similar-ish type of thing going on there, right?
Right.
But the more demons you slay, the more little soul fragments you're able to collect, the more soul dice you get.
There's a miracle dice, like Sisters Miracle Dice, similar.
Yeah, only a lot darker.
Definitely opposite end of the spectrum.
Right. Same sort of mechanic. Very different philosophical bent. Yes.
That's so cool. I love it. First off, the idea of a game and making rules for a game. I know it's not a new idea. It's been around. I've heard of this idea for a long time, but I haven't, off the top of my head, haven't thought of or don't know of really any games that exist that do this. And so this is the first one where I'm actually talking to someone who is doing it. It's currently having a game that does this, and it couldn't be more appropriate to the stuff that I'm interested in, which I love. And so that's why this whole thing came about. That's why I reached out to you in the first place and wanted to talk to you about this. So Adam, he and I were talking a little bit, and then he told me about this. He just sent me a link to it, and then he told me that you guys were doing it, making the game together, and so super cool. I love it. So here's a question. In terms of, like, where you want this to go, is it just you guys, this is a fun hobby project, okay, here the rules are done, you can get it here and that's it? Or do you plan, like, what are your plans with it? What do you plan on doing with it from here?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we're going to do probably one game a year. All right.
Okay.
And I don't imagine that we'll go back to this particular well right now. That is to say, the next game we do in 2022 isn't probably going to be Rain in Hell 2, Electric Boogaloo, Now There Are Angels, or something like that, right?
Okay.
Now, I do have... We've talked about concepts. There are things we hint at in the story that's in this book that aren't answered, that we know the answers to. They're where I would want to go with an expansion in the future that I'm really excited about. But that'll probably be a couple years down the line, as it were. Where we're going in the immediate sense is, like I said, I'm going to put out a solo and co-op campaign expansion. So, look, there's a lot of people in the world who are still really suffering under the pandemic and aren't able to get out and, really play with their friends still. So this will give them something to do there. We're going to continue to put out more articles and support for it over the coming months, things like that. That'll all be free stuff, right? Like, that's just stuff we're doing to support the game, to give people more options, more ways to use their toys, more fun.
Okay. Yep.
And then where we'll go in the future is probably once, we'll put out a completely different game next year. Maybe something the year after that'll be different. And then maybe, in the future we return to it, right? Because I have ideas of where I want to go, but we're not going to necessarily use like a GW model of like, this is what we're all about now, right?
Right.
What we're all about is writing cool, fun games that let people use their toys. We'll always be miniatures agnostic as far as I know. Like, unless we get some really whiz-bang idea that there just aren't really any miniatures for in the world, we're going to make the flying robot squirrel game, and we really love the flying robot squirrel game, and we think it's the absolute winner and what the market is needed, but there are not many flying robot squirrels around in the world, so we're going to have to just bite the bullet and make our own flying robot squirrels. Fine. But in most cases, the kind of things that Adam and I like, there are, already existing miniatures out in the world that people will be able to use.
Yeah, that's fair. Have you ever thought about making a card game?
I have, but that is such a different skill set, actually.
Yeah. Like,
designing card games is such a very different skill set to designing the types of games that I like. I think I am in awe of people who can make great card games, because it's really hard.
Have you ever played Boss Monster?
Yes, I have played Boss Monster.
That has an interesting mechanic. I like that mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can build up upon it, and you kind of go through the level that you create is different every time, and build up your war gear, or you can lose it, and yeah, it's neat. It's different.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many. Like the inventiveness of card games amazes me what they can do with that simple thing. Every year at when I go to Gen Con, myself and my friends who go, we always buy 1 or 2 card games to try out, and then we play it like in the hotel at night, you know.
Yeah.
And so I've had a chance to play a ton of them over the past years, and I'm constantly so impressed by card game designers. It's just that one's just outside of my wheelhouse.
Yeah. Another good one is Dominion. Well, the deck building in general. That mechanic.
Sure.
Yeah. But I guess that's Magic, right? Deck building. And
Yes.
my favorite deck building game is actually Resident Evil. I don't know if you've ever played it, seen it.
I've never played it.
Yeah, there's a Resident Evil deck building game, and it is highly addictive, and the replayability is awesome. Yeah.
Nice.
Been playing for years, over a decade. Been playing it.
Wow. Okay.
So I highly recommend it. And if you happen to make a card game as well, in whatever form that takes, if it ever takes place, please let me know. I want to know. I want to see it.
Okay. I'll keep you in the loop. Absolutely.
If it is demon based, if it's chaos based, then please especially let me know.
Absolutely. I'll see what we can do.
Yeah. And then that one I'd probably play on the channel. And yeah, just for fun. Right.
We've just found the perfect Venn diagram sort of overlap. You're right there. You are the center of that overlap. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's super cool. I love it. I love stuff like this in the community. And just switching gears really quick, just for a second, and talking about your YouTube channel, because you're north of 60,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel, and you've been doing it a number of years now. And there's a lot of AOS coverage on your. I don't know if that's current because of the new edition, or it's just always that way, or is it mostly AOS? Like, what do you prefer to do on your channel?
Yeah, so my channel's really split. Kind of, it has 2 personalities because it's I have 2 loves, right? So yes, most of what I cover is Age of Sigmar. So we have a show every Wednesday called Warhammer Weekly.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty straightforward. We've been doing it now since 2015. We just celebrated our 6th anniversary of doing that weekly show.
Awesome.
I have never missed a week in 6 years of doing this, and I don't intend to anytime soon. We cover all things Age of Sigmar related. Right now, it's a great time, obviously, to be into AOS with the launch of 3.0. So obviously, we're knee deep in the coverage of that. We're doing our points review today at 5 p.m. Eastern. So it's just going to be a real busy day for me online. But then every Saturday, then the other big series that I do a lot is called Hobby Cheating. And that is really miniatures painting focused. Like, miniatures painting is my passion. That's what fills all these cabinets behind me. So I paint a lot. I enjoy painting. I don't know if you want me to I've won awards for painting. Fine. Great.
Yes. Awesome. Cool. Please, tout. I want to know.
Sure. So I will go back to teaching classes normally. I do normally teach in-person classes. I work with CK Studios to teach classes, especially my most favoriteest class to teach is called Heavy Metal. And it's all about, it's a 2-day class where we paint Imperial Knights. Okay. I love Imperial Knights, especially I guess I should just say Knights, because I also like painting the Chaos versions of them as well. I just find all of them really fun. So
I'm glad you threw that in there for me. I like it.
No, it's my favoriteest knight I've ever painted, I think, is actually a Chaos Knight. So there you go. It's a Slanesh for, House Divine, or however you say that. At any rate.
Are you a commission painter?
I am not.
Okay, because I was going to say, because judging by your Instagram, it's painted miniatures, and it's a lot of them. And I'm like, I wonder if he does commission. So, but you're not a commission painter. Have you ever considered it?
Not really. I don't have the time, because I do work a normal full-time job, and which this is my lunch right now, which I'm happy to be spending with you. It's a great way to spend a lunch. Awesome. But between that and doing everything for the channel and just painting for myself, I don't have the time to commission. But I mean, sure, I've won crystal brushes and golden demons and stuff like that. It's I'm happy to do that. And I certainly love competing, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah. But honestly, I really love painting. I am deeply, deeply addicted to it in all the best ways you could be addicted to, something that's positive and creative and a great hobby. It relaxes me and centers me and is a creative outlet and all of that stuff.
Yeah. That's interesting. Because there's so many different facets to the hobby, right? Of the game. I find that that out of all of the different facets, my favorite one is collaborative storytelling.
Okay.
So if you had this army that you painted up and it was unique, and I looked at it and I was just like, wow, that's a fantastic army. Hey, Vince, how do you feel about like us making a narrative campaign? I want to make a narrative campaign based around this army that you have.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Like that to me is my favorite way of my outlet in this hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I get that. Like, there are armies that I've done. So I have probably, I have 19 painted armies right now.
Dang.
And
that's a lot.
18 for AOS and one 40k army.
What's that? Is it knights for?
It's knights. Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And
how many AOS armies are there? Are there 18?
25, I think.
Okay, all right. I was gonna say. I was like, geez.
So I'm missing some. Plus, you can always expand your existing forces.
Okay. So people are wondering how many golden demons you've won. But they're like, he's not gonna tell us. He's too humble. So, do you know the number?
Yeah, I have won that many. I've won 2 golden demons.
Okay.
I'll tell you outright. It's fine.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've won 2 golden demons. I hopefully 2022. Fingers crossed. We're coming back to the States. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a rough year, full of rough competition, and I certainly don't expect to win anything. But I'm gonna try my absolute hardest.
You know what this is my feeling about it. Like not being a painter in the hobby. Like I've dabbled with painting, but I wouldn't consider myself a painter in this hobby. It's just my observation with painters that are painting stuff and winning awards. I find it rare when, and this could totally be my perception, but I find it rare when I see a painter who that's all they paint for. It's normally they love painting and they just happen to put their stuff in competitions. And if they win, they win. Fantastic. But if they don't win, they're going to continue painting anyway because they love painting.
Right.
And
yeah, I mean, certainly, like, there are pieces that you're going to do for Golden Demon. Like, I'm just literally starting out on Kragnos here. And I know he's going to be a Golden Demon piece. In addition, by the way, I do use most of my Golden Demon stuff in armies. Like, so
yeah,
I'm not going to not play with the stuff. Most of my competition pieces will get played with. They just get played with after they go to competition. But like, so I know that from the start, and that's going to be a lot more work, right? So like, I know I'll have to spend more time on him.
Yeah.
But, regardless of that, I still often just do display stuff because I want to do display stuff, or I want to make something that looks pretty, or I want to challenge myself, or, whatever. But sometimes you can also just paint fast. I'm sorry to lean off camera here real quick. I'm going to do so just because I want to do this in an example. I apologize for that. Okay,
no worries.
So this right here, it's just very small. This is a new Vindictor from the set, only he's a Skaven, which I know that you can't really see what's going on there, but trust me, this guy took a long time. So that single model took maybe 30 hours to paint because I wanted to do him to a real high level.
So that's from the new Dominion, but you said it's Skaven.
It is, yes. I changed him. He's going to be my Stormcast that I'm going to do, and he was the test model for the army, is going to be all Ratcast, I will call them, but it is a redeemed clan of Skaven that have all found the true light and wonder of Sigmar and have been converted to Stormcast in a heroic moment.
Interesting.
Under the tutelage of this sort of first redeemed character. Doesn't matter. It's a lot of silly backstory that's all in my head. You mentioned like narrative campaign forming. I don't know if you've looked at Soulbound at all, or if you ever play role-playing games, but Soulbound is like the AOS RPG.
Okay. Anyways,
the very first character I played was a Skaven Priest of Sigmar, and I loved the idea so much I wanted to expand it to a whole army, so there you go. Anyways, awesome. That fig took like 30 hours to do, because I really and that's every fig in the army will probably be 20 to 35 hours per fig, okay?
And how many in the army?
Well, I mean, it's Stormcast, so it's not that many people, right? 50 figs or something like that, probably total?
That's still a lot.
Sure.
Would that take a year? How long does it take? 6 months?
Probably a year, yeah, 6 months to a year.
Dang.
Sure. Figure you've got 2,000 working hours in a year if you paint 40 hours a week like me, so that'd be 2,000 working hours in a year.
Yeah, see, that's crazy. That's crazy considering, you got your job, you're making the games, you do your streams and your channels, your videos.
Yes.
And then there's like the high quality on each model. Plus there's the other just models that you're painting. I'm guessing you also paint that at the same time.
Exactly. You also just paint stuff. That's what I was going to say. That guy took like 30 hours. I also painted an army for a video that'll be coming out this weekend, where I paint a whole army in a weekend. I painted that whole army, which is 77 models, in 17 and a half hours, basically.
Yeah.
Right?
That's speed painting, though, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes. But that's my point. That's the beauty of the hobby, right? That right there shows why I love it. You can do, on one hand, just raw speed painting. It doesn't matter. It still looks good when you put them all on the table, right? Because nothing like a painted army is always cool, regardless if it didn't take time. Like I got it down to like 8 minutes a figure or something was what I was working through, right?
Crazy.
And so you've got that into the spectrum, but then you've also got the, I'm just going to sit here and work on this one little dude for just days, right? And it's amazing that this single hobby can have that whole range in it. Like, that's why I love it. You can just pick your place anywhere in there. There's no right or wrong. It's just what you want to do at that moment. That's wonderful.
We got a number of people asking you if you even sleep.
Less. I don't sleep a lot. I'll say that much.
Yeah, I mean, geez. I mean, and that's just like the stuff that you've said, right? Which is crazy. It makes sense though, because, okay, for those of you who haven't seen his Instagram, check out his Instagram. Like, check out all his channels. But his Instagram specifically, if you're an Instagrammer and you like to look at painted minis, check out Vince's Instagram. Link in the post. You'll see it here, no matter where you're watching this from. And also, again, going back to the topic of this Shrine of Chaos today, we're talking about Reign in Hell. I was going to say Reign of Chaos, which is really the same in my brain. So that is your miniatures agnostic game that you've created with Uncle Adam from Tabletop Minions.
Yeah.
And it's a rule set that you can apply to any miniatures, whatever you want. GW.
You got those
Creature
existing
Caster.
GW demons. You got some Creature Caster demons. Maybe there's a cool 3D print your Patreon to, and they had their demon month and you didn't have anything to use it for. All fine.
And the rules and the information on the game I've provided in a link, the first link there in this post. So check that out if you're interested in that. You want to see it, want to get the rules for yourself, play the game for yourself.
Do you want me to describe a little bit of what gameplay feels like?
Yeah.
Just to kind of give people a sense?
Yeah, let's do it.
So like I said, you've got about 7 to 10 miniatures. Usually when you're starting out, it's 7 is the average thing. You have your philosophy. That's sort of the motivating impetus of your cabal, what you're trying to bring about. Your cabal consists of a leader, which is a little more freeform design, a little more customization. That's sort of your avatar, right? That's the strength of the force of personality that has brought this group together.
Yep.
You have what's called the devout, which is their sort of lieutenant, their heavy, or their right hand, whatever you want to say. And that is that's sort of the person who's there, the demon that's there, I should say, to really help manifest. They are a fanatic of the philosophy. Mm-hmm. They are a true believer, right? In whatever you're selling, they're in. And then the rest of your cabal consists of various minion demons. Minions start out as lesser demons. You can recruit lessers basically at the start of the campaign. There are lesser demons, greater demons, and superior demons. You can also evolve all of your demons if they do enough, if they sort of get, grow enough, get enough soul energy, they evolve from lesser, greater to superior form over the course of a campaign. Your cabal might expand from 7 people up to 10 people, that kind of thing. You might call demons and replace them with new, better versions of themselves, stuff like that.
Cool.
The game itself was meant to be simple and fast, like I said. And so the mechanics really work like this. I can explain this quickly. There are 3 stats. Move. It is how far you move in inches. Mm-hmm. It is pretty straightforward. Life. It is the amount of life you have. If it goes to 0 because you took damage, you are slain and removed from the table. Again, you're not permanently slain because demons can reconstitute themselves, but you're slain for that battle. Mm-hmm. And then finally, combat. That is your combat score. And that single score determines both your attack and your defense. It's very easy. So if I had a combat score of 6 and Dave has a combat score of 5, and our little, boom, the 2 little demons ram up against each other, what happens is, first I compare my 6 to your 5. I'm higher than your number, so I hit on a 2. If we equal our number, if we're equal, we hit on a 3. If you're higher, I hit on a 4. So it's if you think of like the 40K chart, it's 1 down from that.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yep.
Because again, we want it to be fast, brutal, that kind of thing. And occasionally you can have things that will screw with those numbers, but those are the basic numbers. I then roll however many dice my combat score is. So for example, we said 6 to 5. I'm 6. I roll 6 dice. Every 2+ is a point of damage. You roll your defense dice. You have a combat score of 5. You roll 5 dice.
5 dice, yeah.
Every roll of 6, only 6, stops a point of damage.
Interesting. Okay, so that's the defense. All right, cool.
Yes. And then whatever's left is how much damage the demon takes. It's that easy. There you go. You now understand combat. It's just that simple. There are other little flourishes, of course, throughout the game. Certain demons can do things like automatically change the face value of die. So, like, for example, the armored demon who's meant to be defensive, he can just take any one of his defensive die and set 1 dice to a 6, right? So he more easily defends himself. Just things like that. So there are fun things that mess with the mechanics, of course, as what you would expect in a game.
Yeah, very cool. This dice manipulation and
yeah. We tend to use dice manipulation instead of like re-rolls or bonuses. There's not really much in the way of like +1 to hit or -1 to hit or anything like that. That doesn't really occur because I am of the belief that I didn't want anybody to do math, and that math slows games down, even if it's very simple math.
Yes.
So most of our things are just replace. So like I mentioned with the armored demon or somebody like that, you might have like an offensive demon who's like, you can set one of your offensive dice to a 6. Great. Boom. Done. That's it. I rolled my dice. That 1 is now a 6. There's my roll.
Cool.
Right? No math.
No. It's fast.
Yes. I really, really, really tried to keep math minimal because it really annoys me in a game. And we all play games that do this. It's fine. I still love these games. This is no bag on the games.
Yeah.
Like 40K and AOS are great games. I'm just saying that like we've all been there where we're like, okay, hold on. So it's +1, 2, 3 to the save, and then okay, you've got the AP of this. Okay, I need to take that off. Okay, so I'm at 5+ now. Okay, I'll use my invuln. All right, so like right, we've all been in that math situation.
Yeah. So here's a question then. How I had it in my brain. Hold on. It was about the combat. Yes. How do you keep track of your health? Do you have certain markers for that? Do you do it on a dice? Do you write it down? How do you do that?
Yeah, on the play. It's a great question. On the play sheet, there's a little place to track your original life total, and then just write in your current life on that demon. There's a play sheet where you can have 1 space for every demon in your cabal.
Right.
It's free available on the website to just print out as many copies as you want. There's a little space for like your leader, a little space for your devout, and then there's a bunch of spaces for all the different minions. Most of the life isn't that complicated. Again, fast, brutal. So like your demon will have 7 to 12 life. Attacks will often do 5 to 10 damage. So you can see how those two overlap. That's quite intentional, right? Meaning if a big bruiser demon, so for example, one of the philosophies is called the judges. They're sort of the ones that manipulate the laws, the metaphysical laws of hell to gain power. And their devout is called the executioner. And he's a real bruiser, right? Like he does he does what it says on the tin, as it were. And when he gets up into combat, it's generally chop chop and bye-bye. Unless they're a very defensive demon, right? So you don't often have to worry about too much life tracking. It's pretty brutal and fast.
How do you determine who goes first, and is there alternate activations?
Oh, I'm so happy you asked me this question, Dave. I am so thrilled because it is the thing I am most proud of in this entire game is our activation system. So this is everybody who's ever written a game, you're going to have one thing you write that you're really proud of. This is my one thing. Okay.
Nice. I love how you build a suspense. You're like, you build this up. You're like, okay, I can just make him wait.
Let's take a drink real quick. Yeah. All right. So here's how it works. Start of the round. Both players, you grab a number of D12s. Yes, D12s. That's right. We're bringing in the D12.
Nice.
It's an exciting dice. It's through a lot of people. I thought more people. I've played role-playing games since 1989. My house is full of D12s. So anyways.
Okay.
You grab a number of D12s equal to the number of demons you have alive on the table. Okay? So as you lose demons over the course of the game, you roll less dice.
Yes.
Let's say you're just starting out. So I got 7 guys. Grab 7 D12s. Roll them. Okay? Then you put them in order from highest to lowest on your play sheet. There's a little space on your play sheet for you to literally like set the D12s on. There's a little image that looks like a tiny D12.
Yep.
So let's say you roll like a 12, 10, 9, 8, 2, 2, 1. Sure. I think I just said the right number of dice. I don't know if I didn't, but it doesn't matter. Okay. The opponent does the same thing. They roll theirs and they set them down. We then proceed to count from 12 down to 1. And so let's say I have a 12 and your highest was an 11. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. We're on the 12. I have a 12. I will activate that. I take that die. I set it next to a demon, whichever one I want. I activate that demon. That demon can now move, fight, do its stuff that it can do in its turn.
Yeah.
Once it's been activated, that's it. That demon is now activated for the round.
Okay.
It took that activation die. You're on the 11. Okay. You have an 11. I don't have an 11. You go next. But what that means is we could have a run. Like I could have rolled 12, 11, 10, and you could have had nothing higher than a 9. Right? So it might be that I activate 3 demons in a row. So I might do my 12, my 11, and then my 10. But then let's say the rest of my dice are like 3, 2, 2, 1. Mm-hmm. Like I had a really split roll. Mm-hmm. And you had a really middling roll. So you were like 9, 8, 8, 5, 2. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to activate 3, but then you're going to activate 4 before I get to go again. So you get these little mini runs that sort of happen organically.
That's cool.
Throughout the system, throughout the thing. Right. If we roll the same number, then it alternates. You understand what I'm saying? Like the person who didn't go last then goes. Gotcha. Right. So if I rolled a 12 and an 11 and you just had an 11, I would do my 12, then you do your 11, then I do my 11. Gotcha. Very straightforward.
Right.
So
makes sense.
That's it. And what it means, what I love about it is it's random.
Yes.
Like it's a random initiative system, of course.
Yeah.
But it's public knowledge.
Yes.
Like you set it on your play sheet and your opponent has done the same. You can look at their sheet. They can look at yours. It's not kept secret. Uh-huh. Right? So you can look and say, okay, they're going to have a run of like 3 demons right after my first one goes. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to put my big, powerful bruiser out there in the middle because then he's going to get jumped in return by 3 demons, right? Okay, so instead I'll play a little more defensively and I'll put my defensive demon out here to just hold an objective. That's cool. And then those 3 can't get at me, right? So what it rewards is somebody who can sort of think on their feet and play very tactically, right? There are big rewards for that kind of tactical play.
Yeah. I love that, how it rewards tactics and also there is that element of randomness to it. And it's not just a chess match. Although those are fun in and of themselves, but they're different, right? The randomness is what adds the spice and the as you said, the reaction, right? It's okay, this is a completely new round and things are going to activate in a different order. So we have to
it's an exciting moment when you grab that grip of D12s and you're like, come on, let's do this. Come on, daddy needs some 12s. Boom. And then you toss them down. Like, yeah, it's an exciting moment, right?
That's really neat. So, okay. So you said that all the demons are on a sheet and they're written down and you have this stack of dice. And so once a demon has gone, do you put a little check? Like, how do you know that demon has gone?
Just leave the die next to them on the table, or you can use a little chip to represent. But like the way we talk about it in the book is when you take the D12 off of your play sheet, you actually set it next to them as a token.
Okay.
Right. And that just marks them as having acted.
And then you re-rack at the end of the turn and do it again.
Then you re-rack at the end of the turn. Yep.
Very cool. So last question here. You mentioned an objective. So do you have scenarios and how do they work? Is it objective? Is it kill each other? Is it multiple? What do you got there for that?
It's a great question. So yes, the book comes with 10 different scenarios in there. 7 of them are true multiplayer. That is to say, you can play any between 2 and 4. One of them you can play solo. It is a 1-player scenario. It goes 1 to 4. That is to say, like one of them can handle. You can do it alone because there's sort of an AI-controlled solo monster you're basically engaging with.
Cool.
And then the other remaining 3 are 1v1 scenarios, right?
Right.
Yes, they are mostly objective based, though there is, there is twists to all that. So, for example, there are things like there's a very simple King of the Hill scenario. The objective there is to be on the terrain, to be the last person alive on a single piece of terrain on the board. Like there's sort of a hill, the king of the hill, right? Single piece of terrain in the center you fight over. That's kind of one of the more simple ones. To more complicated scenarios, like there's a scenario called the Twins, where there's two objectives, but you can only ever hold one of them, and your goal is to get one and then use it to destroy the other one. Mm-hmm. You can only destroy the other objective if you have the first one. So that kind of thing. Like cool. There's a lot of different concepts going on. Some of them, the objectives are mobile. Like you can literally go grab the thing and run the heck away with it and try to protect it, you know?
Yeah.
Some of them, the objectives are stable, and you have to operate at that point and then expose yourself to your enemies coming and attacking you as you're trying to, like, harvest stuff out of it or something like that, right? So there's lots of different ways we play with how the objectives work. Killing is always its own power, right? That is to say, you don't need to really incentivize people to go kill each other very much in a game, because removing the enemy's models generally is advantageous.
Yes.
It's kind of combat is its own reward, as it were.
Yeah, for sure. And Korn likes that, so it's all good. No,
checks out.
Vince, thanks so much for being on the show. It was a pleasure to have you. You're certainly always welcome back in the Shrine of Chaos. Being that you have contributed to the canon of the war game community by making this game, one of 7 actually, and this one is very appropriately themed for the Shrine of Chaos. Reign in Hell is the game for those who are just tuning in. Be sure to check it out. Links in this post to have more information on the game and to get the rule set for yourself. Be sure to follow Vince and his channels. We got his YouTube, his Twitter, and his Instagram links as well.
You mind if I give one final thing real quick, Dave?
Final words. Let's do it.
Yeah, let me hit some final words here. Like I said, I do hope people enjoy and check out the game. Check out the site if nothing else. It has videos on there that show like what exactly it is. It has additional text. You can download all the play sheets and everything we've talked about for free. It does have the links to the game. The game itself, we wanted to keep it affordable. It's $10 for the PDF or $15 for the book and the PDF. So we tried to make sure that you're not talking about a huge investment here. We wanted to make sure this was something fun and affordable for everybody to give a shot. So I just wanted to say, and sort of end my little part here by saying, Dave, I really appreciate you having me on. It is great to talk about this. It's been super fun, and I wanted to thank everybody for watching, and I hope they enjoy the game. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks,
awesome.
Dave.
Awesome having you. And thank you guys for tuning in. Stay tuned next week for the Shrine of Chaos. Happy Wargaming.